Hello everyone, this is Caleb Simpson, and you are watching my 100% walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword for Nintendo Wii. Now the first time you return to the sky after hitting a goddess cube, then Fi will have this dialogue where she's explaining that you can see the goddess chests on the map. So you can actually see all of the chests that you have unlocked so far. However, this does not include the ones that are inside Thunderhead or the ones that are inside Skyloft. You have to actually go to Skyloft to see those, and the Thunderhead ones we just don't have access to right now. So you can press plus at any time to see your map and see those. Now there is actually some Gwei that are in the sky as well, and these guys have, actually maybe they're not Gwei, they look a little slightly different. I just thought they were. I'm going to keep calling them that though, because I don't know what else they are. They're not enemies per se, they're just birds. I guess technically they're innocent bystanders, so we could call them a felony? So it's time to head back to Skyloft, and you're going to want about 180 rupees. Now, if you don't have that much, you can either murder more Gwei in the sky, you can play with the flying squirrel things that are near Pumpkin Landing, and you'll see that later in this video. You can go to the Waterfall Cave and get more rupees that way. Otherwise, you can do the Bamboo Island game, although I think that's actually fairly hard, especially at this point because you don't have a very long sword. So currently our wallet only holds up to 300 rupees, and you'll notice that I have 277, so I'm actually very close to my limit. And you can speak with Gully optionally if you like, and earlier he had this chat bubble above his head as well, and he says that if you had some kind of ranged weapon, you could shoot the bell that is hanging underneath Beedle's shop, and this would allow you to shoot it to get his attention so that you could climb up and buy things at his shop. So now that we have the slingshot, we can finally do that. So you want to smack the bell that is below his shop. This will let him deploy a rope that you can then climb to get into his shop. So like I was explaining a couple videos ago, there's oftentimes these reoccurring characters in Zelda games, and Beedle is one of them. So Beedle is a shopkeeper who always has more expensive items typically, and usually they're exclusive, so he has a lot of really interesting, unique items that can only be purchased at his shop, and they're typically more expensive than other things. Like you go somewhere else and things cost like 150 rupees, and he has things for sale for like 1,200 or more, you know? And so you can buy really expensive, awesome items from Beedle. And there's, usually he has like a couple weird ones that you don't really care about, but a lot of them are really, really good. Now our priority here is actually to get the extra wallet. That's what you really, really want. And the reason for this is because not super soon, but after a little while, we are going to be getting a gold rupee, which is worth 300. So we want to make sure we have enough capacity to actually hold that. So if you go get that, you will actually waste a whole bunch of money. So in order to have the capacity to gather that, I'm going to buy the extra wallet, which will increase our rupee limit by another 300. It only costs 100 rupees, which is actually a pretty sweet deal. Later in the game, this doesn't really matter so much. Like, this is kind of not important, but I think early game, this is very important to buy at least one of these. So I highly, highly recommend you get at least one extra wallet. So I'm going to buy that. And if you have some extra rupees and you're planning on messing with bugs for potions, you definitely want to get the bug net too. It's pretty cheap. And I'd recommend, if you're going to buy it, to get it sooner rather than later, because there's a lot of bugs in Faron that you can get right now, as well as even, I think there's even some in the temple as well. But anyways, you want to get the bug net. It will allow you to make your potions more awesome. Now, like I said, I'm not really going to focus too much on potions myself for this playthrough. I will talk about it a lot, and I will show how to get a lot of the bugs, but I don't know that I will use a lot of potions myself. I might show it towards the end. I don't know. I'm still in the process of recording the gameplay. I'm like 80% of the way through recording the gameplay, so I do have a little bit more time left. You can optionally talk with Beedle if you want, and you can ask him what he's doing with the bicycle thing, and he's actually powering this ship with it. And if you actually leave his shop without purchasing anything, he gets mad, and he has that little rope next to him, and he'll actually like make you fall out of the boat. I actually haven't, airship, that's what I'm trying to say. I actually have not recorded that yet, so I will record it at the end of the walkthrough because I haven't done that yet. Maybe I'll just include a clip right here, though, showing that.
Nope.
This next part might be a little excessive, or like, I don't know that a lot of you might have as much rupees as I do at this point, but if you have enough, I recommend you go back into the shop and purchase another extra wallet. Now, this is, again, a little excessive. This isn't strictly necessary. The first one I think is super important, but if you have the rupees to spare, I recommend you get another one of these. Now, I'm going to get a ton of rupees throughout this playthrough, so it's like a good boost for me early on, and I just want to make really, really sure that when I'm in the temple and stuff, that I don't end up making too many rupees and then run out of space in my wallet. I guess that's another comment as far as the amount of rupees you have. If you're not going to buy the bug net because you have no intention of ever catching bugs, then maybe that will give you the extra rupees you need to buy another extra wallet. So whatever you want to do, I do recommend you get the bug net now, though. Bleh. So here real quick, I'm showing my treasure, and that is to show that I don't have very many bugs, but I also don't have any monster claws. I expected to get some throughout this playthrough so far, but that hasn't happened yet, so I need to go fix that because we're going to need a monster claw to upgrade our shield here in a moment. Now to use the bug net, you want to hold down B, and then this will pull up a radial menu, and then you can tilt over to the correct item and then release, and that'll switch to the bug net. So you can press B to toggle back and forth between your sword and whatever item you're using. So what I recommend you do for bugs is actually you just put the bug net right up next to them. You don't have to swing really wide at all. Put your bug net right, like almost so you're on top of the bug, and then just quickly swipe off to the side. And that will totally catch them super easy. So just walk up to them slowly, and then just swipe it up to the side, and that'll work. So like I was saying a moment ago, we need to upgrade our shield, and in order to do so, we're going to need some Monster Claws. Now actually the best place to get Monster Claws is from keys, and you can get them from here in the Waterfall Cave. Keys are really easy to defeat. They often come in clumps, so they're in larger quantities in a very short, packed-in area, so that's very easy to get them from these enemies as opposed to other ones. And also, you might want more Jelly Blobs, and you can get them from Choo-Choos as well as Deku Babas as well. Now, Choo-Choos are definitely easier to defeat, and these guys are just small Choo-Choos, so they can be defeated pretty easily as well. So you can progress through the entire Waterfall Cave to get both, and one of the reasons why I do recommend you go through here is because there's often a Starry Butterfly here. The best place to get Starry Butterflies, you can get them through Skyloft at night, but also you can get them at night at Pumpkin Landing. I think Pumpkin Landing is the easiest place to get them, but it works the same way. You just get really close to them real slowly, make sure the bug net is really close to them, and then you can swipe away at them, and that will collect them as well. So if you need Jelly Blobs, I'd recommend that you go through this cave too, and that's what I did right here. Although, if you are primarily interested in Monster Claws, actually the best place to do that is just the beginning and end of this cave, because there's 4 keys at the exit of either side. The one next to the Loft Wings I think is a little bit easier because the exit is a little bit closer, so you can walk back and forth there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that a couple times until I have several of these guys. Eventually we have access to some items that you can put in your adventure pouch that will increase the chance for you to find treasure from enemies. We just don't have access to that right now, but eventually we have that, and that makes this significantly faster because you can find the treasure off of enemies quite a bit quicker. But yeah, this is the best place to get Monster Claws, and that's what I'm here for right now. Now the keys are really close to this exit, so I'm just going to go in and out of this cave repeatedly, and that will make the keys appear so that I can hopefully get a Monster Claw from them. Alright, so finally here I attacked some enemies, and I actually got 2 Monster Claws at once, so there's one off to the right, and I quickly ran over to the left, and I got stuck on this pillar, but there's another one that dropped right here as well, so I went ahead and grabbed that. So those are 2 Monster Claws. That's more than I needed, but that's great, because we're going to need a whole bunch of them. I think we need something like 18 or 20 Monster Claws total to get all of the upgrades in the game, so I'm going to need quite a few. So that's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and kill all the enemies along the way out, because I still need some Chew Jelly and Monster Claws just in general. Although it's more efficient if I come back here when I have those items that increase the drop rate of treasure. But yeah, you need quite a bit of Monster Claws and Chew Jelly. I think you need something like 18 Monster Claws or something like that, and then 20 Amber Relics. So Amber Relics, Monster Claws, Chew Jelly, and I guess Dusk Relic would be the 4th most common one, if you know where to look for. It's kind of like weird. If you go out of your way to get Dusk Relics, you get a ton, way more than you need. If you're not going out of your way to get Dusk Relics, then you're starving for them, and it's horrible. So it just kind of depends, I guess. But yeah, those are the most common treasures if you're going out of your way to get them. So this isn't really the most efficient way to do this, but this is definitely the best place to get them because I wanted 1 Monster Claw at the moment. Alright, so on our way back, there is actually a shortcut you can make. There is a box here that you can push towards this ledge, and that will allow you to climb back this way. Honestly, I very rarely climb up this way. We're usually coming from up above and then working our way down most of the time, so you don't really ever need to use this box most of the time. But yeah, it's just a thing, so you have to push it over. I could have done it earlier in the game too, but it wasn't really strictly necessary. So next in the bazaar, there's a bunch of different things you can do. Primarily, one of the new interesting things is that Rupin has a small seed satchel available for sale, and that will allow you to carry more seeds at once so you can have more seed pellets that you can shoot at enemies. And that's actually pretty useful, and I'll come back here to look at that here in a little bit. But right now, my priority is to upgrade our shields. So I'm going to go to Gondo's scrap shop, and you can upgrade your gear. You can also repair your shield. However, if you're going to upgrade it, it's not worth repairing it because it'll automatically get repaired when you upgrade it. So this requires 2 Amber Relics, 1 Monster Claw, and 1 Chew Jelly, and this will allow it to have increased durability, so we do not need to worry about it breaking as fast. So this is a very nice thing, especially right before the temple, so I'm going to go ahead and upgrade it right now. This does also cost 30 rupees. I have more than enough currently. You might have to come back if you don't have that many rupees, though. Alright, so that's all we had to do here for now. You want to go ahead and leave Skyloft and hop off and fly with your bird. Now there is actually some gways usually along the way that have red rupees, so whenever you see them, be sure to stop and try to swipe into them. You just dash into them with A while flying your bird. And one comment I will make about that is it is significantly easier if you try to stay really high. So if you are too low, then you might have to flap and you're like trying to build up speed as you're getting close to them, but just generally speaking, always try to stay high for whatever you're trying to bonk into with your bird. So here I'm being rather stubborn trying to get this one, but something I will comment on is that these birds they occasionally can have silver rupees in their clutches, which is worth 100, and that's like super awesome. So if you see one that has that, you definitely want to try and get them. Now, one thing that's unfortunate is sometimes when you fly past these guys, they will just disappear. And I'm not sure what causes this to happen. Like in this example, in this particular recording, I flew past this a bunch because I kept missing. But occasionally, like, you fly past them and it's fine. Like, I don't understand what causes them to disappear. But yeah, like, you know, they give you 20 rupees, and this was kind of a waste of time in this particular recording. I just kept missing it over and over again. But if you can successfully hit them on a regular basis, I mean, every 20 rupees adds up. So if you get that every time you go back and forth, like, it adds up over the course of the game to several hundred rupees. Right, there. Continue on towards Pumpkin Landing, and you use these little warp portal things. These are called spinners, which is a weird name for them. But anyways, so use the spinner here. This will lead you over to here. And I wanted to show on my map, you can see that there is a chest here. You can also place beacons if that would make it a little easier for you. Now at this point we can only place one beacon at a time, but this will tell you exactly where it is. Now something to know is if you flap really high above Pumpkin Landing, it's not quite all the way to the top, it's like 75% of the way up through the sky. You can actually dive off and get some rupees this way. Now something you can do actually anytime you're diving is you can press Z to look straight down when you're on your bird. This will allow you to get a better idea of when you're diving. Now there's these little flying squirrel things, and what you want to do is you want to tilt your Wiimote until you're touching each one of them. Each time you hit one, it makes this little successful sound. And ideally, if you can hit all of them before you hit the ground, then they'll give you some money. I think these guys are interesting, and just whenever you're heading to Pumpkin Landing, you can do this real quick if you want, just to make some little extra rupees on the side. They'll disappear as soon as you get too close to the ground, and there's two places that I know of for sure these guys appear. One of them is here at Pumpkin Landing. The other one is over top of Volcano Island. That one is way harder to do, though. You have like no time at all to get to it before you hit the island, though. Alright, so this goddess chest is just to the side of Pumpkin Landing on the right side, and open that up to get a adventure pouch slot. Now this is super awesome. We don't really particularly need this at this exact time, but we will fill that slot very quickly here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and remove my beacon. I'm going to go ahead and place it on the other one, and we'll get that here in just a moment, but there's actually some other goodies we can do inside Pumpkin Landing real quick. So head inside, and you'll notice that as soon as you enter, they have this cinematic that like puts a lot of emphasis on the chandelier that is above the table there, and you'll see there's a bunch of goodies up there. And if you talk with the characters, actually, they'll talk about the chandelier and how there's rupees on top of it, and they'll be like, yeah, pretty appetizing, so awesome, right? And they are very insistent that you do not make any roughhousing at all, otherwise you'll shake the chandelier. So as you head up the stairs, you can meet up with Stritch, who is one of Groos's lackeys. So you can talk with him, and he's actually not a jerk when he's not near Groos. So anyways, he's actually kind of a nice guy, but he's obsessed with bugs. He loves bugs to death, and so he's highly recommending that you get the bug net from Beedle's airshop. And one of the interesting things to know about Stritch is you can actually talk with him in the Knights Academy in his room at night, and he's willing to buy bugs off of you. So if you need some extra rupees, that is a potential option if you have a lot of bugs that you don't need. So if you have way too much of a particular type, you can sell them to him for money. Alright, it's time to get that mouth-watering piece of heart. You'll see there's a sign on the wall that says no roughhousing and on the balcony, so this is a clue that you need to roll into stuff to shake things. So keep doing so until you can get that piece of heart. When I first played this game, I was so shocked by that. I was expecting the piece of heart to just kind of like plop off the chandelier. I was not expecting it to fall down, and all these characters like in-depth reaction like surprised me. That level of depth, but that really left an impression. I think that Nintendo handled this really well. But go ahead and grab the piece of heart. This is the second one in the game, and that's great. So we have one more we're going to get in the sky, and then one more we're going to get in the Skyview Temple, which is awesome. So you can optionally speak with all the characters here, but when you're done messing around, go ahead and speak with the owner. So if you speak with him and you don't currently have an empty bottle in your possession, you're going to have to empty one out. And also just a quick note, I haven't equipped the shield yet, which I really need to do. But anyways, go ahead and speak with him after you've emptied a bottle, and he will then give you hot pumpkin soup. Now this takes, I think, 5 minutes before it cools down. So we want to bring it to Egus, the Knight Commander, who is in the training hall in Skyloft, before it cools down. Now we have plenty of time though, so I'm going to go ahead and get another goddess chest along the way. Alright, so along the way, I'm going to go ahead and fly over towards the beacon that I put on my map earlier, which is towards a small floating island that has a goddess chest on it. Alright, that is our third piece of heart total, and there's actually one more piece of heart we're going to get before the Skyview Temple boss, which is awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my beacon just because, and then we're going to go ahead and return to Skyloft. Now, like I was saying before, if you don't dash off of a ledge like this, you won't have the little squirrel dive looking thing, so it's not the right animation, and Link will not be able to summon his bird. So if you just hop off, then it will be bad. So you need to dash with A in order to summon your bird correctly. So even though I had that quick detour, I do like to go straight to the Knight Commander before I forget. I actually have done that before, like did other side quests and was like, and then I got here and then I ran out of time right as I was speaking with him. I was like, no, really? Anyways, go walk over and talk with Egus. In past Zelda games, a lot of times you just had to you had to equip the item and then stuff and then give it to him and stuff. You don't have to do that in this game at all. As long as it's in your possession, in a bottle, then the characters will react as if you were bringing it to him. You can actually say no and he gets offended at you. Like, you brought hot pumpkin soup and it's not for me. So that's all the primary, optional things we were going to do, but you can head on to the temple if you like. Otherwise, you can hang out with me. I'm going to go back to the deep woods, actually. I'm going to get a fairy to put back in our bottle, and I'm going to get some more optional treasure and bugs for our collection. This will allow us to upgrade some of our items later on. So if you'd like to do that with me, if you're planning on upgrading your items, you might want to hang out with me in the deep woods where I have some efficient farming I'm going to do real quick. It'll only take a little bit. But also, I'm going to go get some glittering spores, and glittering spores are amazing. They're actually really overpowered. So I'm going to show how to use them and what they're good for. Now, I emptied my bottle of the fairy in order to carry the hot pumpkin soup to Egus, but we can easily just get another fairy. So I'd recommend you do that before you enter the temple. There's a couple places and ways that you could potentially get a fairy in the temple, so I'm going to show how to do that here in a little bit. But go ahead and warp to behind the temple. This way you can get to the sealed temple, and that will allow you to get another fairy. Now, as long as we're here, I'm going to go ahead and get some bugs, and you can roll into the walls to get the woodland rhino beetles, but otherwise you can also smack these rocks, and they have woodland grasshoppers, I think is what they're called. But you smack them with your sword, and this will make them pop out. Now again, to use the bug net, what you do is you switch to it, and then get real close, slowly, just walk up to the bug slowly, inch your way forward with the analog stick, and then tilt your Wiimote until it's right next to the bug, and just quickly swipe to the side, and that will allow you to catch the bugs, and that's how you do that. It's actually pretty easy. It's honestly the same thing for all these bugs. One of the only exceptions actually is these butterflies. The butterflies are kind of dumb. They do run away, but not really. They just kind of like scatter around, and you can totally catch the rhino beetles with the bug net as well. You don't have to roll into them. It's just easier usually to roll. Alright, so enter the sealed temple, and there is some jars off to the left side of the old woman, and if you smack them, they always have a fairy in them. So you can always come back here and get fairies. It doesn't respawn like instantly as soon as you exit the door. It's like you have to go somewhere else. Like if you go to the sky and then come back, the fairy will reappear. So if you want multiple bottles of fairy, you can. However, I think we only have 2 bottles right now anyways. I'd recommend you keep the revitalizing potion for now. But anyways, you can get the fairy by either swiping it with the bottle, by using the minus button and switching over to it, or you can use the bug net, and that works as well. So one quick comment is there's actually 3 different styles of bird statue in the game, which is actually kind of interesting. They have some that have this like kind of round shape at the top, and those ones are only in dungeons and they just let you save. But there's also some of these ones indoors, and they have their wings to their side, and those ones you cannot use to warp to the sky. There's also another type that have their wings slightly extended, and those ones allow you to fly. So you can use them to reach the sky. It's actually the fastest way to teleport back and forth throughout the surface. Is you can actually use the bird statues to go to the sky and then come back to a different owl statue or bird statue. Blah. I'm gonna keep doing that, I know it. So I'd recommend actually the fastest way to get to the temple would be to use a bird statue, but I'm actually gonna run there just to show in case you were like you wanted to go this way and people were confused on how to get there. I'm going to show how to get there real quick. So the fastest way is actually just to take some of these shortcuts. So like if you look on my map, you'll notice that we're actually heading to the north. And actually I totally messed up right here. I should have just gone straight left right there, taken that log, but instead I'm going to take this one instead. As long as we're here, I'm going to go ahead and get a grasshopper because I saw it right there. That's kind of my recommendation for bugs, is I don't really get all of them. I just get the ones that are convenient. So as long as we're here, I had another idea. We should just go check real quick and see if there's a sparkly mushroom, and sure enough, there is. So you want to keep an eye out for sparkly mushrooms like this. If you smack it with your sword, it'll release sparkling spores, or glittering spores, excuse me. So if you... Now, I just filled up that bottle anyways, but glittering spores are more valuable than fairies, and what they do is they allow you to make fairies whenever you want, and I'll explain that here in a little bit. You can also catch birds with your bug net. This is a little bit tricky. If you position yourself well, if you step on them, they'll totally fly away. But if you get fairly close to them but not on top of them, you can actually just catch them and get feathers from them. And now one of the reasons why I point that out is if you position yourself well, you can actually catch multiple birds at once. So especially if they're pretty close to each other, you can kind of like strafe off to the side a little bit, and then you can actually catch 2 of them at the same time. Here I was checking to see if there was any amber relics near this waterfall. There was not. So, glittering spores. What they do is they allow you, if you empty a bottle of glittering spores on either rupees, it'll change the value of the rupees, so it'll change it from blue to or green, blue, and red. It'll just change their value back and forth. So hopefully what happens is you defeat an enemy, a green rupee pops out, you use a bottle of glittering spores on them, and it changes it to one of the other values. So ideally you're hoping that you get a red rupee out of it. So that's kind of cool. It just changes the value of it. What's more valuable, though, is you can use hearts. So if there's a heart lying around somewhere, you use a glittering spore on it, and it will change it into a fairy. So what's really cool about that, you can use that to heal at any time, especially in boss rooms. So when you're fighting bosses, they always have jars along the side that have hearts in them. So you can use glittering spores on them to create fairies. And you can either fill up your other empty bottles, or you can run through it to fill up your hearts. So it's kind of nuts because a lot of bosses have quite a few hearts in their room. Like they have like 8 hearts on the sides. So that means you could potentially have like multiple bottles of glittering spores, and you could get a lot of them. Now, each bottle of glittering spores allows you to hold up to 5, I think. So I have 5 charges of glittering spores right now. Alright, continuing on, I was showing how you could use the slingshot to stun the Bokoblin so that you didn't have to fight all the other guys. And occasionally he can drop a monster horn. If he does, that's super awesome, but that doesn't really happen very often. Now I would recommend you actually hunt the bees a little bit here, or hornets I guess I should say, so that you can get some hornet larvae. So you just roll into the tree, it'll drop its beehive, and that instantly appears, or yeah, the treasure instantly appears. You want to pick that up. So you need a total of 4 hornet larvae in the game to get all of the upgrades that you can get from Gondo's scrap shop. So if you're planning on upgrading a lot of your gear, then I'd recommend you just do this now. Now one quick comment about birds too is interesting to know is birds will actually reappear. Like they're in the same set location, so you'll notice there were 3 birds right there. They got startled, they ran away. They will actually reappear after about I think it's 30 seconds or something like that, or 20 or 30 seconds after you walk away. So if you're not near them, then that will actually make them reappear. Now one quick note to know about that too with birds is I'm going to try and get birds whenever there is whatever's the bluebird in particular, because bluebirds are more rare. So I'm going to keep looking at birds whenever they reappear. So like right now, I think some appeared right back there. And there's some regular ones, and I'm going to try and catch them. If I can, I'm going to try and get 2 birds at once. But I'm not going to stress about it too much. Like, I'm going to get more than enough feathers. So you need a total of 5 white feathers and 5 blue feathers by the time the game's over. Now, the blue feathers are more rare because we don't see them as often. And actually, right there, I totally missed an amber relic. Oh, well. But yeah, this is totally the best place in the game to get Hornet Larva, and I like to just do it now and get it out of the way. Now, if you ever see a bluebird like these ones up ahead, you want to make sure you catch the blue one instead because it's more rare. Now, unfortunately, this bokoblin is nearby, and I can't sneak up on that bird without alerting the bokoblin, and smacking the bokoblin with anything will make him alerted, or will scare away the birds. So I stunned him so I didn't have to deal with the guys that appeared. I was hoping he dropped a monster horn. He did not. I'm going to go ahead and get some more hornet larvae, as well as the woodland rhino beetle, and then I'm going to go ahead and catch the Hylian hornets. Alright, so at this point I have 4 Hornet Larvae, which is actually all we need for the entire game. So this is the easiest place to get Hornet Larvae, and now that I have that, we're done with this area and we can move on. Now real quick though, I am going to show that you can use glittering spores on hearts to make fairies appear. This will actually transform them into that. So glittering spores are kind of cool. You can also use them to stun enemies, but my favorite use for them is to make fairies. And you can fill up all your bottles, or you can just use them in boss rooms, and I'll explain more about that here in a moment. Now, you'll notice here these birds reappeared, and one of them is blue, so that's the one I want. But if I am very careful, I could get 2 birds with 1 net, I guess? 2 birds with 1 net. So just be really careful, just walk really slowly, be patient, and you can do this very well. And I could technically probably have gotten all 3 in that one, but it's not worth it. But definitely the blue bird is worth it, though, and I'm just showing that I did indeed get a white feather and a blue feather there. Alright, so I'm done here, so I'm going to go ahead and use this shortcut to get back towards the temple. Now, talking more about glittering spores, like, I think that a bottle of 5 glittering spores is significantly more powerful than a single fairy, because you can make 5 fairies out of that. And honestly, like most boss rooms in the game, not all of them, but a lot of them have heart flowers on the sides. And you can create fairies from hearts that drop off of enemies, but it's kind of hard because those hearts will disappear really quickly, but heart flowers will stay put, so as long as you get pretty close to them, you have more than enough time to do that, and it works great. But yeah, glittering spores are OP. If you bring like at least 1 bottle of 5 charges of glittering spores into a dungeon and you go to the boss room, like boss rooms often have at least 5, if not 8 jars along the walls that have hearts in them. So if you create hearts and you turn them all into fairies, like you have so much health. It is insane. So rather than filling up like a whole bunch of different bottles with fairies, whatever, you can just have 1 bottle that has glittering spores. Even late game, it's super awesome. But yeah, if you find a glittering mushroom, you smack it, you can get all the spores you want. So you could fill up multiple bottles and have like 15 charges of glittering spores. It's just crazy. So you can just make all the fairies you want, which is nuts. Anyways, continuing onwards, there was a tablet off to the right of the temple that gives you a clue about how to proceed in case you didn't figure it out. It says to find the bird and look straight up at what the bird is looking at. And if you look above the doorway, because there's a bird icon on the door, you'll see that there is a crystal switch. So smack that with your slingshot. This will open the door. And that's the end of this video, folks. Join me for the next one where we will enter the Skyview Temple. Oh. This is not the way you're supposed to do it.